So the overview for today is welcome and setting the stage. We'll be doing an estuary section review and then talking about coastal dunes. We've done some work with partners to do some additional analysis. We'll talk about some habitat trends analysis and then go over the kind of technical support that we are requesting from you all. This is what we're looking for from our partners. And also how best to provide feedback and next steps. Okay, so in general, this is kind of how the habitat section reviews have gone. Each section is broken up into these different components. And so we have a piece on ecoregions where you can find the different kinds of habitats. There's conservation overview, and then a discussion of both limiting factors and recommended approaches. And then we have really a strong request from you all that if there is additional resources or data gaps that are missing, if you could please let us know. We've been trying to build our references and resources for each of these sections so that we have more information available if people want follow-up information to what's in the section. Any questions on any of this? So this is an example of what the different sections look like and how they're numbered. And I provide this because it's a way for us to kind of request comments. So it's super helpful that if you have comments on any of the sections that you can make a reference to the line numbers and say, like, for example, in 146 through 150, please add this additional component, or this needs to be corrected or something. So when you're providing comments, that's just it's a way for us to be able to track comments and be able to make our edits more succinctly. And so that's just something that we appreciate. And this is just one excerpt from the estuaries section. So what's in the estuaries update? So I will say that from the original content on the Oregon Conservation Strategy website, we have done a significant update to this section. And so we have added new descriptions under physical environments. There's new information on invasive species. There's new information and also placeholders in order to be able to cross-reference with the near shore content. And then we also have done some updated limiting factors and approaches. And there's updated resources and references section. So there's actually quite a lot of updates in this section. We've already identified, like, a data gap that came up recently is that in a lot of the other water related or water habitat related, we've had a beaver spotlight, and that has not been included in the estuaries update. And so we've had a request for that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that especially in the more freshwater systems, like beaver do play a strong component in tidal systems. So we're acknowledging that we've received that comment and that we can certainly talk more about that. And that because there's so much new content in here, we really appreciate if people can do a review. This is a fairly robust section. There's a lot of information in it, and we want to make sure that people get a chance to kind of look over that. Okay, so then we also have a fairly short section on coastal dunes, which has also been updated a bit. And but there's some questions that I would like people to consider as they review it so that we can make sure that we have good information. And so one thing, is there any additional information that should be added to the conservation overview for this section? And that includes also looking at limiting factors and any other updates. And then this section in particular could use a few more resources if people have things that they would like to include. We have added a new section, which we will be talking about in just a minute. And just a perspective, so, you know, what level are these sections in? So this is meant to be a general audience document. And so I will acknowledge, for the most part, we are not putting in scientific names unless we're including them in a table or something. And we are not doing direct citations in the text. So for a lot of folks, we think about this in terms of a biologist perspective, but we are definitely asking people to think about this in terms of more of like what's accessible to a large audience. And if we have specific references that would be helpful, we are putting those at the end of the sections. So one of the things that we've added to this round of the updates is that we worked with Institute for Natural Resources with Ray and Eleanor to do kind of a comparison between a series of maps and be able to see if we can find some trends in vegetation changes for these key habitats. And so this effort compared the total area and spatial overlap between vegetation classes in existing vegetation maps, and then they were able to make some comparisons. And then key habitats were evaluated based on the ability to make reasonable comparisons. So not all key habitats were completed. So we will have added that to the sections where this seems to be most applicable. And then some of just the basic 3 statewide mapping resources, the time periods were pre-settlement, turn of the millennium, and contemporary. And then several other maps were referenced that provide additional information to inform specific questions. So this was done for a number of different spaces. One of the spaces we did this for was for the coastal dunes, and I wanted to share the overview on that, just to provide an example of what this looks like. So here are some of the habitat trends found for coastal dunes in comparing between 1855 to 1910 and then to 2016. So this suggests a loss of 24% of the historic historic coastal dunes between 1910 and 2016, which is probably not a surprise to anybody. And then the interesting thing is that things have moved around. So only 38% of the areas that were mapped were in 1855 to 1910 were also mapped in 2016. So the where the dunes are occurring has shifted over time. And then I think as folks would expect, that there's been significant shifts in where open dunes are located. Some are now stabilized and some are open in other areas. And so these are some of the primary conclusions. There's a little bit more information in the section, but these are some of the primary conclusions for this trends analysis for coastal dunes. So here's what we're looking for. We're going to give everybody about a 2-week window. We're doing that so that we can kind of make corrections to each of the sections over time, and also so that people kind of have a window before the next section comes up that they might be interested in. And so we're really asking you to help us review content of the habitat descriptions, conservation needs and limiting factors, and recommended approaches. And then if you're providing new information, it's really helpful and you have it, we'd love to have more updated peer-reviewed references and resources. As I said, the estuaries section has quite a bit of new references and resources. If we have more for coastal dunes, that'd be great. And then if you want to identify any significant data gaps, like, hey, this is missing or this is an unknown, we may not be able to get to everything because there's kind of a tight timeline to get all the pieces pulled together, but it would be nice to be able to identify things that need to get looked at in the future. And so how do you do that? So we have an online feedback form, and this is in the website that I referenced, the swap revision site. So there's a link with each of the different habitat sections. And so we're asking for, yeah, my apologies again. Life's been busy, so I missed an update on this one. We're actually asking for updates on this a little bit later. So you've got 2 weeks from the 18th to get your updates in. And so please provide your comments, and I'll make sure that that's up on the website with the correct dates. But please provide your comments. And people have been doing that in different ways. For the most part, I've been getting some texts through the website. We're not looking for edited chapters. Edited sections. That's a little bit hard for us to deal with. It's a lot easier if you provide the line-by-line references. Any questions on that? And people have been doing a great job, actually. I have to say, like, for folks that have already submitted comments, I've really appreciated the thoughtfulness that we've been getting in. Okay, so next steps. Here's the next series of conversations. And so the next one that's going to come up, or the last one for habitat, is going to be grasslands and sagebrush. And then we're going to have one, KCIs are the key conservation issues. And so those are going to be in 2 meetings. Well, the first meeting will cover pollution, climate change, invasive species, and barriers to animal movement. And then the second meeting will include land use changes, water quality and quantity, and just disturbance regimes. And so that'll be in early May. And then the comments can be provided through the revision webpage, or you can also email OCS revision, and those will get distributed to the right folks that are working on the different sections. Any questions about that? Greg?
Yeah, just a quick comment. There may be an additional meeting on key habitats for the marine environment. We have not had a chance to do that yet. There may be an opportunity to do so for technical review. I have been overwhelmed the early part of this month, so I'm just kind of trying to get a handle on that. And so that may be an additional key habitat meeting for technical reviewers. And since we're dealing with estuaries here today, we have done a lot of work to incorporate a lot of the input from the marine side there. But estuaries are part of the key habitats within the marine environment, and they will all be stacked together there as well. So just a heads up on that.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, that's a question that came up in one of our earlier sessions, so I appreciate that. Yeah, this is the meetings I had available to let people know about. Okay, so process timeline, where are we at in space? So from February to May, we kind of here, like in this space, we're working with partners to do technical review of all these different sections, with the goal of having all of that wrapped up by early to mid-May, so that we can come up with a completed draft in June. And then this is going to go to, with some additional work, this is going to go to our commission in August. And then after the commission review process, then this is submitted to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in October. And so that's where we are in this kind of longer process. And then my last one is just thank you. I'll stop sharing, and if people have some additional questions, we can have some time for that. Just a reminder that you can provide an email with comments or questions. You can also provide your comments to the link. And we're trying to post each of the chapters, each of the sections with at least a little bit of time before the meeting to review, and then for a couple weeks after. Well, they continue to be up, but we'll be taking comments a couple weeks after. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll see if people have any questions.